Hi, everybody. Today's lesson is going to be about quotes and analysis. Particularly, we're going to be looking at our body paragraphs and how we actually use quotes and use analysis of those quotes. And the reason why we need to make sure we're doing analysis is for two reasons. Firstly, in our MYP criteria, we look at criterion A. That is all dedicated to analysing. We have to analyse the content, context, language, structure, technique, and the style of the text, the relationships between the text, how the creators' choices affect the audience. We have to analyze the features across texts and across genres. So all of these things are actually part of what we're meant to be doing in MYP English, but they also fit really nicely into our VCE. And in our VCE for Year 11s, we need to be able to discuss how the texts are constructed. So we're really talking about the text construction. And that's why we step above the text, and that's why we need to not just say what happens in a text, but what it shows, what it reveals, what it actually is intended to expose to the audience. Particularly in our body paragraphs, if you see this section here, this is a template, I guess, an empty table about our body paragraphs. So you can use this as a graphic organizer to help get your ideas ready. So your topic sentence from each paragraph should have some big idea about both texts, and then we pick text 1, evidence, character, moment, and quote, and then analysis. So we need to, after we've picked the character, moment, and quote, we need to show what that character, moment, quote actually show about the essay topic. And then we do that for text 1 and for text 2. So the previous examples that we've gone through have been really looking at this, but they haven't done a heap of analysis. So today I'm going to show you a couple of samples of how you can do analysis in your body paragraphs. Basically, after you've done, so we know the teal, we have topic sentence, evidence, analysis, and in your comparative essay, we will have a comparison, evidence, analysis. That's what our body paragraphs will look like. And then a link at the end, and that link goes back to the essay topic. But these sections, analysis, for the purpose of this comparative essay, I'm going to give you 4 different ways that you can analyze. So after you've used your evidence, then you have to, and once you've used your evidence, you need to think to yourself, okay, how next I have to say what this evidence shows, which is number 1. This is the most basic level of analysis. So this example shows what? And then we can also have these other 3 ways of analyzing. And when you can explain what it shows, you can connect it to the author's views and values. So we might use words like advocating, supporting, Yeah. Or condemning. So if we're thinking about Black Panther, we might talk about how Coogler condemns the use of violence as the way of achieving one's goals. However, he advocates the opening up of aid across the world. And so obviously Wakanda being a fictional creation, it's not just talking about Wakanda, it's symbolizing or representing how we should, as global citizens, act towards other people in third world countries. So we can use that connection to what the views and values are. And similarly in Macbeth, you can talk about Shakespeare's views and values in terms of what was Shakespeare trying to do. So he was advocating the quality of loyalty to one's king, but condemning the corruption and ambition at all costs, for example. So we can link to those after we have used our examples. We can analyze by explaining the views and values. Now we can also analyze, and this is a far more sophisticated way than just saying what it shows or what the view and values are. The third way that we can analyze is by explaining how the author or the playwright or the director creates that message. So how the author, director shows their support for a message. Now, this might be talking about a particular literary device or a metaphor, motif, symbol. It could even be the use of a film technique, the use of music, a close-up shot, cinematography, camera angles, any of those things. As soon as you are talking about that, you are analyzing how the meaning is constructed. So you're really talking about text construction. And the fourth thing that you can also do is link to the impact on the audience. So whether that's the viewer in the case of Black Panther, or actually the viewer in the case of the original Shakespearean play itself. So we can consider the context of the audience at the time, but what was the intended impact of this on the audience? All of these things, when we do these, we reveal the stepping above the texts. We're discussing text construction, and we're not talking about any of the events of the text like they are really happening. So what does this look like in a paragraph? If we pop over here. So you guys have a couple of these. These are in the OneNotes. I'll make sure that you have paper copies as well. So this is just a paragraph that is to do with the topic that we've been looking at, which is that people who are power hungry, it will lead to destruction, or that ambitions and being overly ambitious causes will lead to their downfall. So we start with the opening sentence, which is the topic sentence. It should be a big idea about both texts. So both texts suggest that characters who are motivated by power will ultimately betray those around them. So this is to do with being power hungry, lead to betrayal. In Shakespeare's tragedy Macbeth, this is revealed through the characterization of the protagonist Macbeth as he becomes progressively corrupted by his desire for power throughout the play. So you do notice the stepping above the text here. We're referring to Shakespeare's tragedy. We're referring to the play explicitly. And we've also used meta language here with characterization. So this is kind of introducing the character, and the character is Macbeth. And from character, we will then usually go to event or moment. So the character is Macbeth. The moment here is the arrangement of Banquo's murder. So Macbeth's desire for power is revealed through his cunning arrangement of Banquo's murder. In particular, the way he manipulates the murderers by suggesting that Banquo is responsible for the heavy hand that beggared their lives to the grave. So obviously, these are the quotes. And it's particularly referring to manipulate being the way that he lied, and he blamed Banquo for the difficulties that the Scottish people were in. In the early stages of the play, Banquo and Macbeth are presented as firm allies in their commitment to the war against Norway and in their shared hearing of the witches' prophecies. So this is again explaining the relationship between Macbeth and Banquo, which leads to the next sentence. Through this, the audience will recognise and likely condemn Macbeth's brutal betrayal of his closest friend. So because of the initial relationship between the two, the audience will recognise the betrayal and condemn. So we're talking about the views and values here, and we're also talking about the impact on the audience. Okay, so that's one example of analysing by linking to views and values and linking to the audience response. I've got another one here. If you pop with me onto the second example. This one has the use of symbolism and text construction. So it's a similar idea. We start with an introduction, the first sentence of the body paragraph about both texts. Both texts reveal that innocent characters suffer because of those with a lust for power. Okay, so this isn't to do with betrayal as explicitly, it's to do with the innocent characters suffering. So Shakespeare uses the character of Macbeth to explore the dire consequences of his growing ambition. So again, a character is Macbeth. While initially Macbeth may have been reluctant to betray his king, however, as the narrative unfolds, he becomes emboldened with each ruthless act and eventually orders the callous murder of Banquo and his son Fleance. So this event is the moment, the murder of Banquo and Fleance. His thorough planning can be seen in the way Macbeth manipulates the murderers, instructing them that only in his death would his life be made perfect. So there's a couple of quotes there from that scene. The audience are invited to recognise. So now we're talking about audience reaction. So that is an analysis. Recognise the cruelty of this act, especially with regards to the innocent Fleance. So the young boy Fleance, that is particularly cruel to him. Shakespeare invites the audience to condemn Macbeth's ruthless actions and his ambition, which is revealed later in the play when he meets his demise, or when he dies at the hands of Macduff, and his head is symbolically hoisted as Macduff declares, "Behold where stands the usurper's cursed head." So this is using a symbolism, the symbolism of the Macbeth's head being held up, the celebration in his destruction or demise reveals Shakespeare's condemnation of his actions. So that's another example that uses an analysis while linking to a symbolic device. Now, you could also use the symbolism of blood to reveal guilt. For ideas, come onto the OneNote, and if you pop over to the Macbeth tab, you'll see there's some themes, motifs. So the motifs of light and darkness you could analyze, the motifs of the impact on the natural world, the motif of blood. So that will help you analyze by connecting to a text device or construction. In Black Panther, so if you pop back to that essay, we'll go to the first one again. We'll go to the second half of this paragraph. So we talked about how we analysed the Macbeth example. Then we need to have a linking word, and we'll move on to the text 2, which is Black Panther. So we need to think of an example from Black Panther that supports this idea that those in power betray those around them. And the one that we've used is Killmonger shooting his girlfriend in cold blood. So likewise, in Black Panther, Killmonger is depicted as power-hungry and willing to hurt innocents in order to achieve his desires. So obviously the character is Killmonger. This is particularly explored in the scene at the junkyard, where he callously shoots his girlfriend as Claw attempts to use her as a human shield. So that's the moment. And Killmonger does not hesitate before taking the shot, even after her last emotive cry to him is, "I'm sorry." So we have a quote. We don't need a quote if you are really describing in detail, but it doesn't hurt. And then, after we've used the character moment quote, we're going to pop into some form of analysis. And to find this, you can think about what it shows. So you could analyze here by the "I'm sorry" really invites us to feel sorry for her, because she's done nothing wrong other than be captured, but she's apologizing for it. But we can analyze also by looking at the text construction. And to do that, you might want to watch the scene again. So we see, we pop back to that scene.
Let's get going, boss. You always serve to the CIA? I still do the highest bidder. But don't you worry, when I get back to Joburg, I'll lay low for a bit. I'll make sure both you guys get paid. Oh, I ain't worried about the money, bro. On the way back, just drop us.
Here.
The Bonnie and Clyde routine ends today. Put your gun down now.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Eric.
It'll be okay.
So I might just pick that camera choice here, which is a mid shot, a high angle of her lifeless deceased body on the rough ground, which really highlights the impact on innocent people. So here we've got a sentence. So the medium shot of her lifeless body lying on the rough ground highlights the betrayal and emphasizes the way Killmonger sees other people as disposable and to be used, as he focuses only on his own ambitions. Okay, so we have an analysis. This one is connecting into a film technique. So we can use symbols, we can use views and values, audience reaction, and we could also use the film techniques. And my final sentence, the link sentence, needs to come back to both texts. So thus, both texts express concern that the lust for power may drive people to take advantage of others, leading to much suffering, or leading to the suffering of innocent people, leading to pain, leading to devastation, whatever you want to say there. But there's a paragraph with a couple of forms of analysis. And hopefully you'll get some ideas on what you need to do when you prepare your body paragraphs in order to explain what it shows, views and values of the author or director, what the audience is intended to feel, think, believe, what's the impact on the audience, and also the text construction. So those are 4 things that you can analyze for. Hope you've taken some good notes here. There'll be a couple of activities for you to do to practice the skill of analysis. And good luck with your essay prep.